Welcome back to IGN Live at E3. I'm Damon Hatfield, and joining me once again are Lucy O'Brien, Miranda Sanchez, and James Duggan. We just saw the Bethesda E3 showcase, aka Bethesda Land, and there's a lot to discuss here in the post-show. The big finish of the Bethesda event was Wolfenstein II, the new Colossus, and this time the action is coming to America. Give me some impressions.
I mean, I thought it looked fantastic. It's definitely one of the most impressive trailers I think we've seen so far at the show.
Yeah, so all I was thinking during that entire time was, we were like, oh, what if they take hints from Doom? It's like, no, this is hints from Fallout. It just felt like so many of the scenery was like, oh, it's like Fallout, but so much different, and that's such a good thing too.
Yeah,
of course.
Yeah, I think we talked about Doom occupying its own wheelhouse and how Wolfenstein kind of needed to separate itself a little bit, and I think it did just that. It's very narratively focused. It's quirky. It's set in Nazi-occupied America, kind of in the South. They have this quirky band of characters. You're no longer with the U.S. Special Forces. You're kind of a rogue, crazy agent. And also there was like a monkey with a cat head?
Yeah, that was, okay,
well,
I can't.
Alternate history, you
like,
never know
what is that? Well, exactly. I really liked that aspect of it. It sort of had some surprises in there that I really didn't expect. But I also loved the supporting cast that we've seen already. I mean, those characters that we've just seen in that trailer are already super endearing to me.
The grenade was good.
Yeah, the grenade was a great moment.
Can we talk about the extra layer of animation from people archiving? Because that was awesome.
Yeah.
Like,
Talking about
really
the animated character that was in there, that looked really cool. I couldn't really tell exactly what was going on.
Yeah.
No, but that's what I mean. Like, there were just these little surprises. I'm actually really looking forward to watching that trailer again from the beginning, just because I felt that there were so many little sort of unexpected Easter eggs, and I just can't wait to sort of pull it apart.
Yeah, it had a lot of personality. And I think the other thing was that we should totally mention is this is, in terms of a timeline, taking place after A New Order.
Right.
So it was Old Blood, A New Order. BJ kind of dies, but now he's back. And this is a new Colossus.
Are you disappointed? You were saying in the pre-show you were hoping to explore another character, but BJ Blazkowicz is back.
Well, I'm not disappointed because of those other characters that we saw. You know, that when he stumbles up and he meets those two, what would you call them? Like, they were sort of resistance fighters in their own right as well, right?
Survivors.
Different group. Yeah, and I mean, I just think that moment, going back to the grenade, that moment was so perfect, and I was like immediately very endeared to that female character. And so for me, I'm not disappointed because it looks like we're gonna see a lot of variety there.
Yeah,
sure.
And from what we saw in that trailer too, everyone was very involved, and so it doesn't just feel like it's a one-track thing. So I'm really excited about that as well.
Sure. And talking about this gameplay that we're actually seeing right now, I love that they showed this, because this, to me, I said before in the pre-show that they don't really need to iterate like crazy. I think they just need to come prepared with the guns that they had last time, and I mean figuratively guns, like what they're packing in terms of narrative, in terms of boss mechanics, dual wielding. This game looks gorgeous, so I think I'm happy. I think I'm happy. I'm definitely going to play this.
It looks great too. Can we just say that? It's like, oh
Yeah.
wow.
It's beautiful.
Very pretty.
It's beautiful.
I even love the little short film that they opened with.
Yeah.
That was very funny, and I think that's something that's something cool that only Bethesda would do. Like, you're not going to see that at the EA press conference or even like Microsoft or Sony. So I really like those little touches.
Yeah, and I mean, I just think that press conference as a whole was really interestingly themed. I mean, it was very consistent. It was very consistent, very quirky, very sort of, throwback 50s. I liked it. I mean, it was shorter than a lot of the conferences that we've come to expect. But I thought it was unique.
It was unique. It touched on a lot of the stuff that we were talking about in the pre-show, and even some of the stuff that we didn't. And I think, like, the Elder Scrolls Online and Legends, it's interesting to lean into those, but it really felt like a, hey, these games still exist type of moment.
Well, it makes sense. Elder Scrolls Online did just have a big update, so I figured they'd probably give some sort of mention to it, since they want more people to say, like, hey, we still have this thing, we're still supporting it, we want you to know it's here.
Yeah, I do want to mention one point on that. So this is the Morrowind expansion. It brings a new class, some interesting stuff. But what's interesting is this game went free to play, and now this is a conventionally monetized expansion. And to me, that's really weird. You can't buy it with the free-to-play currency. You don't get it if you're a subscriber. Very strange.
But before we let Wolfenstein get away from us, like Lucy, I want to rewatch the trailer again, because when they actually got into the game, it was a little jarring to me, because they were just sort of like showing little scenes and just like sort of jumping around to different parts of the game. And
Totally, yeah.
It took me a moment to really catch up to what was going on.
And we were just sitting there going, I'm actually not sure what we're seeing here, especially because we were anticipating some sort of a brand new IP, and which we didn't get, which is sad, but you know. They can't do it every year.
Yeah.
But yeah, I really liked that it was kind of disorientating and then really set the tone for the game.
Yeah, I was very pleasantly surprised by the tone. Like they have like just the right attitude going into this game. And yep, gotta watch the trailer a few more times to catch everything.
Got the release date, October 27th. And October is apparently going to be a really big month for Bethesda this year. We'll talk about Evil Within 2 a little bit later on the show. But yeah, that's also coming out in October. So, how's that release date feel to you guys? It's right in the thick of things in the fall.
I mean, yeah, it is. I'm very intrigued by the fact that they're releasing two of their biggest games in the same month. Not that they're really competing audiences.
They're very different.
They're very different. But yeah, that was surprising to me. I mean, what was really cool about this conference, though, as a whole, was that the focus really was on games that you can play this year, that you will get your hands on this year. You know, so often with E3, you'll see some sort of cinematic trailer for a game that you won't play, you won't see until, you know, 2020 or something like that. And often it feels like you're just part of this big hype cycle, which of course, you know, E3 kind of is, but it's really nice when a publisher comes along and says, actually, we're not going to show a ton of games, but the games that we are going to show, you will be able to play this year.
Right, and the show kicked off with confirmation that we are getting Fallout 4 VR as well as Doom VFR. Miranda, you're saying you at the pre-show you weren't particularly interested in playing through all of Fallout 4 in VR. Did that do anything to change your mind?
No.
Okay.
So the Vive headset is pretty heavy, even though the controls are interesting with those Vive controllers and just like toggling things and moving things. I could see myself building a very cool town, you know, just with those and like placing things very strategically. Like I have a very set way of how I like to build my houses. And for everyone to live there, you have to have the gnomes in just the right place and your plates. You have to set the table. So that is an interesting aspect of the building part. But overall, I think it's still going to be a little bit of a taxing experience. Cool, but a little taxing just because it is, I don't think, the most optimal game for VR. But if I have the chance to try it, I absolutely will.
Sure. James?
Yeah, I think that Fallout VR struck me as a game that was adapted for VR, well adapted. Yeah. But, well, the Doom VFR looked like a game that was made specifically for VR, and there was kind of a dissonance there.
Yeah, tell me, what do you think Doom VFR is?
I think it's a made-for-VR Doom game that I am incredibly excited to play, and maybe that is like the understated thing of this showcase for me. They led with that. I thought it was fantastic. I saw slow motion. I saw teleporting, which, you know, motion you really have to nail down if you want to get the entire fan base. So it was very exciting to me that it was not just Doom adapted for VR, but rather Fallout, as we're seeing right now.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think Doom definitely is what I want from a VR game. As I said before, I think VR in its present state is best suited to smaller, more focused experiences, and Doom VFR really looked like one of those. And plus, I'm just really keen to get back into Doom. I loved that game, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how it plays in VR.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It seems like you could also have a little bit tighter of an experience because it is a little bit more focused as opposed to Fallout, which is open world, just go anywhere. And just shotgunning the demons close up in the faces would be great, honestly.
You don't worry about Doom being so fast-paced in VR?
It seems like they have figured that out, like you're saying with the teleporting. I know a lot of games in VR do use that for motion, and I think we're going to be okay with that.
Sure. Also slow motion. Like that is super key. If you played Super Hot, you know, time moves when you do, and that was really cool to see that.
We didn't get release dates for either of these, unless I'm mistaken. Is that right?
Yeah, I didn't see them.
But like you were saying, Pete Hines did say that everything they showed today is coming out this year. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. So. That's absolutely correct. Yeah, I mean, you know, I'm very interested in getting my hands on here at E3. So
this is really interesting. I mean, there's some stuff on here. Motion happens, and I actually think shooter is the best and most easily adapted conventional genre to VR, having played stuff like Robo Recall, Super Hot VR, and this this, to me, felt like a killer app for VR. I've been teetering on the edge of buying an Oculus or a Vive, and this may well sell me. I was a huge fan of Doom 2016 and playing it in VR, especially when it's made for VR with those mechanics. It's really exciting to me.
I wonder if this is an update to Doom, part of that package, or a totally separate standalone thing.
It looks very separate with how you have to develop the movement for that. Like you have to alter how demons come at you because you are limited in that sense, and that you would have to, first is a learning curve of how to move by teleporting and also shooting and making sure you're not dying. And then also, I think we just saw like a little bit of a boss fight maybe, and it had like those little ramps that are shooting up. So I think that would be a lot different too.
Cool. Well, we didn't know if it was going to make an appearance, so we were pleasantly surprised to see Skyrim on the Switch, and with what looks like some bonus Legend of Zelda content.
I was wrong. It wasn't Mario. It was Link. It was Link, the Master
But
Sword.
it's actually like crazy how close to accurate you were.
I was being sarcastic too.
I know.
The wild lives on.
Well, I mean, it's my understanding that there is perhaps some amiibo compatibility.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely what it seems like. I wonder just how many are compatible with that. If it's just Zelda, I mean, that's all they showed, but I don't think they would just do it for Link.
I really like jacked Link.
Yeah, I mean, he really is jacked Link. And I think someone was saying, oh, well, Link's in Skyrim, and it's like, no, he's not.
Yeah,
that's a buff dude.
Yeah,
that's
Link.
A really buff dude.
You can believe he's Link, though, if you try hard enough.
Squint your eyes.
Yeah,
right?
just make some sounds for yourself. Just that's good.
Yeah. Let's send it over to the IGN newsroom. Max Scoville is here with his take. Max, what do you think of Linkish, buff Link in Skyrim for Switch?
I love it. I mean, like, I've bought Skyrim, I don't know how many times at this point, how many times I've started new files, but I've always said that, like, Skyrim is definitely, like, it's a desert island game, but the reality of me winding up on a desert island with, like, a PC or a console, kind of slim.
Yeah.
Nintendo Switch, on the other hand, makes a ton of sense. It's perfect. It's a game you can sink hours and hours and hours into. And doing it on the go sounds fantastic. Also, super funny with how much Breath of the Wild obviously borrowed from Skyrim.
Sure.
And modern open world games, to see that kind of, reciprocated. It's like, it's cute. It's like a fun sort of, I don't know, nod. The amiibo support is, I jokingly predicted this a few days ago. Like, so jokingly, it wasn't even on a podcast or anything. But I'm glad we get it. It's super fun. The Master Sword makes so much sense. I do hope we get Mario. I think that'd be really cool. They have alluded to there being Smash Brothers stuff in there, too, which could get incredibly weird, though not quite as weird as some of the Skyrim mods we've seen. So that'll be fun. I hope we get continued support for this. I mean, it's interesting to see Bethesda, who's typically, they're very PC oriented. They're all about the gritty, hardcore stuff. Teaming up with Nintendo, who, they make toys, they make fun stuff. But I like the idea of maybe, maybe parents who played Skyrim when it came out, who have younger kids, being like, okay, 5 years ago you were too young to be slaying dragons, but maybe now you're old enough. Yeah. Let's give this a shot.
Now it's time. Bethesda said everything they were showing today was coming out this year, but were you disappointed that we didn't get an exact release date for Skyrim on Switch?
That's not totally out of the ordinary for Nintendo. I mean, they frequently are like, it'll be out soonish, and it comes out on like a Saturday morning so kids can go to the store with their folks,
Yeah, that's true. All right, thanks a lot, Max. They just showed the one amiibo functionality, bring in the Master Sword and Link's outfit into Switch. I hope there's a little bit more than that.
So we floated the idea of Smash Brothers.
Yeah.
You know what's in Smash Brothers?
Yes.
Pikachu.
Oh boy. All right, we've got
and a lot of other great characters.
It's just this insane dissonance of having Smash Brothers characters in this very high fantasy world.
Yeah.
So just
like anybody from there.
But you're right. The mods have already been outrageous. So
why not?
Yeah, why not?
Have fun with it.
Would play. All right, we got to take a quick break, but our Bethesda post show continues right after this. Welcome back to IGN Live at E3. We just saw Bethesda's press conference, and this is the post show. One of the topics was Creation Club, furthering their commitment to mods and the community. James, what did you make of Creation Club for Skyrim and Fallout 4?
It was oddly similar to one of the most disastrous moves in video games ever, and that was Steam Workshop paid mods, which Steam and the developer took a hefty chunk of the mod, though this seemed a lot more curated. It seemed like they were contacting the content creators specifically. But that is definitely gutsy of them because it's a very sensitive topic for the modding community.
Yeah, I think we definitely need to hear more about it in terms of curation, because definitely I was just scrolling on Twitter after that was announced, and the reaction was not immediately positive. I just think that paid mods are always a red flag.
Yeah, I mean, it seems a little weird because mods are free. Like, it's a thing, and it's just to change that. Like, why would you want to do that? I do see some benefits, though, if, like, Bethesda has a hand. Like, I don't think they would change the mod system that we already have. They're just offering another option for mods that are essentially approved by Bethesda and saying, hey, these aren't going to break your game, and you can download them safely, and they'll work well.
Sure.
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing that we need answered is what is that currency, and how do I get it that we're purchasing those mods with? What is that, like, energy? We need to know.
Yeah, I wonder what the impetus was on Bethesda's part. They said they were working with other developers.
Yes.
So does that mean like professional developers to make content? How did you read that?
That's kind of what I picked it up as. It's like they said third-party developers. So I'm just thinking people around the industry who just, I really want to make a Skyrim thing. And then they do it. And they said, hey, you want to work out some deal? And then they do. Like, I would be really curious how that works with like conflicts of interest and stuff.
Yeah.
But that would be really neat to see somebody from another studio invested in this game and bring a little bit of their touch to one of Bethesda's games.
There are definitely going to need to be some very clear T's and C's for this venture, because I mean, as you say, conflict of interest, that sort of thing. Like, what is a third-party developer? What does that mean? Is that like someone who develops games from their bedroom, or does that mean someone who develops games, on a more professional level?
Well, there is a Dishonored 2 expansion on the way. Death of the Outsider was revealed. Seems to focus on Billy. This is kind of exactly what you were hoping for, wasn't it?
Well, it is exactly what I was hoping for, to the letter. What was hilarious is during that whole trailer, I heard this wail from behind me. I turned around and it was Miranda, because obviously the whole idea behind Death of the Outsider is exactly in the title. It's that Billy is going to kill the Outsider.
I don't like that. I don't want that. I love the Outsider. Just please bring more chaos. Like, just keep doing what you gotta do. So my hope is that Granny Rags just pops out of nowhere and just saves him at the very end. It's fine.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a really cool idea. The Outsider has obviously been this very strange, omnipresent character in both Dishonored games. And yeah, I'm intrigued to see where they're going to take that, especially because Billy is such a awesome character.
Yes.
And I'm kind of, I'm going to be rooting for her. Like,
honestly, yeah, absolutely. Like, I love how these DLC essentially just side stories for Down Billy. Like, that is awesome. And I love that. I just want them to keep doing that. More of that, always, even if it means killing my favorite characters.
I'd be surprised if they flat out killed.
I mean, he is the Outsider. You don't really know.
You don't know.
I mean,
you don't really. He doesn't.
Can you really kill him, though? I don't know.
So what sort of impression did you get from this? There's an older gentleman that she's rescuing here who's played by Michael Madsen. I forget the character's name. Dowd.
Oh, Dowd, yes. Her one sort of like family figure that she has, like he's her kind of father figure.
Yeah, like he trained her how to be an assassin. Like she is his right hand. Like they are hand in hand, always working together. And like their relationship is so interesting and complex, especially with the first Dishonored DLC and like how that ended, depending on how you chose to play.
Yeah.
But canonically, obviously, she gets away.
And the reason that I predicted that the DLC would focus on Billy is because Dishonored 2 sets it up. Like the very end of Dishonored 2, Billy has this huge emotional arc, and then she says, I'm off to find out. And it's just like, that's where the next part of the story is going to pick up.
No release date for that expansion, although we do anticipate it coming this year. Unless I'm wrong, did they release the release date?
I thought they said it was this year.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think everything is supposed to be this year.
But I was also in a cloud of frustration and
worried about the Outsider.
Yeah, I just need to be okay.
James, what did you think about?
So, I mean, it was Dishonored, Death of the Outsider, not Dishonored 2. That felt weird to me, specifically because we were talking about playing through that campaign as a third character with a unique moveset that kind of refreshes the whole thing. So do you think that that's going to be a thing, or do you think it's specifically standalone and Billy's abilities are locked to this new campaign?
Well, I mean, I think that there is a lot of room for all sorts of new abilities. I think that it would be crazy to to say, all right, these are abilities that you've seen before, and we're just going to replicate them. I think, obviously, in any Dishonored game, the pull or campaign, the pull is definitely those new abilities and how Arcane is going to use them to basically disrupt the worlds that they built.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, but Bethesda's shown they're willing to have fun with Dishonored. They don't take it too seriously with New Game Plus. And wasn't there a mode where an update that allowed you to switch the abilities of the characters? Or?
So New Game Plus essentially allowed you to have choice through all of the abilities,
Gotcha.
regardless of who you're playing as.
Yeah.
So, and you also kept all the runes and everything else you found
Sure.
and power-ups.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, well, in the pre-show, I predicted, incorrectly, we'd get the Evil Within 2 in time for Halloween. I predicted exactly on Halloween. However, I was really close because it's coming Friday, October 13th, which is also a very appropriate day.
Yeah, just
Still
a
a
few
great
weeks
day.
off, you know?
Well, yeah. Very appropriate for the Evil Within 2. Now, Lucy, as we said, you reviewed the first Evil Within.
Yeah.
You liked it a lot. What were your impressions of the sequel?
I mean, we only saw a little bit of gameplay at the end of that trailer, but I loved that trailer. I mean,
Really?
I got chills. I was like shivering. I mean, everyone laughed when the little girl, started singing, and there's always that cover to make a video game trailer a little bit more emotionally resonant. Mm-hmm. But I loved it. It totally worked for me. I do love the fact that Sebastian is coming back. Obviously, the focus is very much on his story and his kind of skill set. So as we were talking about earlier, yes, it is probably going to be very similar to the first game in terms of tone, in terms of the balance between action and survival horror. That seemed really clear. There was obviously quite a big focus on him using his weapons and that sort of thing. I really like the impetus this time being more of an emotional one. He has to find his daughter, Lily, who is presumed dead. No, she's alive. That adds to an air of desperation that I think the sequel definitely needed. The only thing I would have liked to have seen is just a little bit more of the actual horror. It felt very much like, okay, this is exploring the mind. I want to use a curse word here, but I'm not going to. The mind messing with of Shinji Mikami's Evil Within universe. It is a very crazy story.
So yeah, absolutely leaned into that. There were a few times when I thought the trailer was over, and then it kept going, and that's kind of what that leaned into. But the very opening shot was very spooky, though.
Yes.
I will say that. I was cringing a little bit. I was like, oh no, it's spooky. But yeah, to your point, it did get all the gameplay we saw. I felt it was very actiony. It was spooky, but not scary.
Yeah, and very mythology focused. I'm also, this is another trailer I really want to go back to and go through again because there's a lot of stuff to unpack there.
For sure. And some of the comment just looked really fun too. Some of the boss fights, it looked like a boss fight or two, and I was just like, that's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, they showed quite a few kind of back-to-back there. Watching this trailer was kind of like looking at a Rorschach, and I feel like a lot of people got their own meaning from it. To me, it seemed as though Sebastian's kind of stuck in this Stranger Things upside down, and almost he was potentially trying to be rescued, but obviously they're pretty clear.
Well, he's gone back into the system, and he's had to go back, so... Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see what kind of monsters they introduce into the world this time around. Because there were some that they didn't, some really effective ghouls and creatures in the original Evil Within that they only kind of used a handful of times. There were sort of moments where I was like, I really want to see that terrifying creature again. But no. And so I'm very much looking forward to seeing if those creatures return.
Now's their chance.
All right. That is Evil Within 2. Now, real quick before we wrap, give me your overall impressions of the Bethesda conference. Did they put on a good show this year?
I mean, I think, in my opinion, I thought it was a solid show. I like the fact that everything as I mentioned before, that everything they announced or talked about is coming out this year. I think that's really positive. I think that's really healthy. It was really short. It felt a little bit, someone on Twitter tweeted at me and said it felt a bit like a Nintendo Direct. Mm-hmm. And I agree, it did. It felt like a sort of a bite-sized conference. Not that there's anything wrong with that. I'd prefer that concise sort of vibe to it than something more bloated. But yeah, it was kind of over in the blink of an eye. I would have liked to have seen one big finish.
Yeah, some big surprise.
Yeah.
Yeah, sequels are really fun, but regardless of who's presenting, when there's not a new IP or just something that's very new and fresh that no one's seen before, it is a little bit disappointing. But
and
overall,
real quick,
it's still fun.
One final thing, James, Quake Champions, yay or nay?
Oh, nay.
Nay.
Definitely nay.
Wow.
This is going to sound defeatist, but I don't know. You can't win every year when it comes to conferences. However, I think Doom VFR and the new Wolfenstein game look really awesome. I'm looking forward to that. Maybe they're working on the next Elder Scrolls for next year.
Cool. All right, thank you so much for all of your insight. That wraps it up here for today's E3 coverage. Make sure you come back and join us tomorrow. We will be back tomorrow at noon with coverage of Ubisoft's press conference, live hands-on demos, and then we'll close out the night with Sony's E3 event at 6 p.m. Pacific. Remember to like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter and Instagram, and subscribe to us on YouTube and Snapchat. And if you missed anything, catch today's edition of the Daily Fix for all the news. Of course, for everything E3, be sure to check out IGN.com/E3. I'll see you tomorrow.